We were posting like 30 times a day for like 8 years in a row. We have 150 million followers across 20 different brands on social media. Pubity is like our flagship one, but we have like in many different niches. We have like dad jokes, which has about 20 million followers. Last year we did like 180 billion views, so just, yeah, huge numbers.
Anything that ever put money in my pocket came because I did something on LinkedIn.
I think the big change with media from a youth perspective, it is down to the consumption, right? The way people consume media has completely changed.
Gentlemen, I am very excited to have you all on board. Thank you for coming. This is a very exciting podcast. The title is The Creators Behind the Youth Media Flywheel Machines That Brands Cannot Ignore. Could you do a quick round of name, role, and your company, and a fun fact as well, please?
That sounds a little bit like Transformers.
Yeah?
Flywheel machines, crazy. So my name is Elfried Samba, co-founder and CEO at Butterfly Effect. And yeah, Butterfly Effect is a, current form and agency that specializes in community marketing, and we help brands scale through that.
Fun fact, Elf.
Fun
We
fact.
can't be skipping the fun facts.
Fun fact is I wear a hat everywhere. I don't know whether that's still a fun fact, but I usually always wear black, so I'm like walking contradiction at the moment. That's what Can does to you. And what's another fun fact? What's another fun fact that no one knows? I'll wrap up my fun fact afterwards. I'm gonna pass it
So you're
on.
chucking it to me? Yeah. I'm Kit Chilvers, founder and CEO of Pubity Group. So we have 150 million followers across 20 different brands on social media. Pubity is like our flagship one, but we have like in many different niches. We have like dad jokes, which has about 20 million followers. We've got Memesar, which is like the largest meme page, through to AI brands, travel brands, pet brands. So in loads of different niches. And yeah, last year we did like 180 billion views. So just, yeah, huge numbers. And yeah, fun fact. Okay, this is actually a fun fact. All right. I reckon I cook spaghetti bolognese for every meal I cook 80% of the time. So wow. I just go home, because I either like order food or I'll just cook spaghetti bolognese, so basically I've mastered spaghetti bolognese. That's a very random fact. Yeah, in all different all the different pasta types. So the tomato, yeah. So that's yeah, fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Have you tried Marmite in there?
Oh, I haven't tried that yet. But maybe I should give it a go. Yeah, a little dash, like Salt Bay. Yeah.
Cool, I can't top that. I'm Mike Walsh, so I'm marketing director at LADbible Group. I joined in September, having previously been at Vice for 7 years. Again, LADbible's fairly well known. I guess one of the original social media content companies. Again, similar to Pubity, just enormous scale and reach, over 520 million followers across all sorts of brands and platforms. Again, much more to it than LADbible. We've got Betches, Unilad, Sport Bible, Gaming Bible, and a whole range of brands in our portfolio. And again, the numbers kind of are mind-boggling at times when you kind of try and get your head around it. The one that always sticks with me is I think LADbible's content is viewed 3,000 times per second, which when you just kind of go through those seconds is kind of hard to get your head around. So yeah, incredible business and scale, and really enjoying it there. My fun fact, I'm going to go way back to before I got anywhere near media, and I wanted to be an actor. And as I wanted, sort of half vaguely tried. And I did get as far as one performance at the National Theatre on the Olivier stage, one night only, never again. That was the end of it. And then had to go get a real job in media. But yeah, acting aspirations when I was younger.
That's cool.
Well,
You got your fun fact now?
Yeah, so for 2 years in a row, so Monzo decided to copy Spotify and do a Monzo Wrapped, thinking it was a great idea. And it was, but it just made me feel like shame. And I was ranked the top 1% of Deliveroo users 2 years in a row because I was really shit at cooking. So everything I did
Maybe we
was
should get into the
deliver.
spaghetti bolognese.
When Kit said that, I was like, oh, that's how I can save some money. But yeah, I was just like delivering like Nando's every like lunch and dinner all the time.
It's way too easy to fall into that.
Oh yeah. It's so much easier, especially if you're like caught up in the work. You're like such a workaholic. It's like probably Kit that helps you with like decision making. You're like, you know what? I don't want to overcomplicate it. I like spag bowl.
Literally, it's so reliable. You know what? Spag bowl. Put the meat in. Yeah, it's good.
Lemon.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just so reliable, isn't it? Like, wherever you are, just spag bowl. You know, garlic bread if you want, but
Fancy.
yeah.
Wow, God, it's like as almost as wonderfully simple as just having like porridge oats every morning, but now like a bit more color that you can actually have it for lunch and dinner, and you could probably tolerate having that every single day as well.
Yeah.
Because you can flip up the tomatoes, you can flip up the spaghetti. There's not much variety when you have got porridge oats every single day.
Chuck a bit of sweet corn in there.
We'll be going through a couple of topics today. I want to give space to your origin stories and how you guys came about. We're going to talk about your business models as well, the Flywheel Mechanics. I think it'd be really interesting to fully understand those and give the audience a chance to understand how that all works. Then we'll go into youth media today, attention, community, we'll be talking all about that, and what next for monetizing culture. We'll also have a rapid fire this or that series of questions at the end. Look, I think there's more color to be given to each of you. You guys have done a good introduction there, but I think there's more we can add to that.
Yeah.
You guys aren't just riding the wave of youth culture, you're building the engines behind it. Kit, the growth hacker of relevance, who turned memes into one of the world's most powerful social ecosystems. You actually mentioned this number already, 180 billion views. Was it views or impressions?
Views.
Views. Yeah. In 2024, over 150 million followers across 20 different channels. Pubity is a digital home for Gen Z, and everyone who knows about you raves about your energy as well.
Nice. Yeah. Say that. That's my next fun fact.
The Energizer.
Elf, the brand and community genius who helped grow Gymshark's brand to its unicorn valuation and now runs Butterfly Effect, the agency brands call when they want to have real community. You are the walking definition of community flywheel, managing multiple companies and 400,000 plus followers on LinkedIn as well. It's insane. It's taken me a while to sort of understand how the mechanics work, but it inspires me every single time we interact.
Oh man, the fun fact is I was actually doing my LinkedIn post just before this podcast, so it's me. I'm the one that's actually posting. Yeah. A lunatic. I don't know about genius.
And Mike, the marketing leader behind LADbible, the media and social entertainment powerhouse, who knows how to scale it profitably and pitch to brands. Prior to joining LADbible, shy off a year ago, you were the force behind Vice Media's integrated marketing and commercial strategy. That has some context, but I'd love to give you guys the floor to give us the origin stories and a bit more of a lens just to add to that. I'm going to go through and just give you guys all, and then I want you to sort of jump in. Kit, for you, I'd love to know the story behind how Pubity was a spin-out from LADbible and one of their events or competitions. What was the moment that you knew it was more than a meme page? And for you, Elf, I want to know, how did Gymshark opportunity come about, and how did that work shape the work that you're doing now? And Mike, I want to understand from you, what drew you to this space, and how has your view on youth media changed over the past decade? Sorry, you, Kit.
Okay. So yeah, what was it? How I grew Pubity to.
Well, there's a spin-out story.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So I can give some context. So I started my first social media page way back in like 2014. So I was 14, posting in school, and I was posting like 20, 30 times a day. It was interesting because it just felt like a game.
Yeah.
Like I was big into gaming at the time, and I realized Instagram had just come out. I could grow these audiences, and if I just applied that same mentality, I could scale it because I was just really into it. So I grew this football audience, like a million followers in the first year.
Wow.
And then LADbible reached out to me. I was like literally 15 in school, and they reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like, I love LADbible. Like, LADbible was like, and it still is this, like, but back when I was in school, I was using Facebook predominantly. It was back when Facebook was like and it still is like the main platform, but I was using it every day. So I saw them everywhere. I was like, you know what, I can't turn this down. And I turned 16 and I showed it to my parents, and they were like, do you want to come and, I ended up chatting to Solly, founder and CEO, and he was like, do you want to come and move up to Manchester and work there? So yeah, I finished school at 16. Obviously, as you do in the UK. I have to like clarify this for like American people. I didn't drop out of school like mid-year, but like finished school. And then, ended up moving up to Manchester with Ira, my co-founder, who was my best friend in school at the time. And we worked at LADbible for a year and a half, growing the socials. So I learned so much there. I just learned, I think it was just at the right time where social media was just sort of developing like relentless speed. Like there was Twitter, there was Instagram, there was Vine at the time as well. So I learned so much from so many different people. And then, it got to a point obviously where we were posting on LADbible, and I realized there was obviously opportunity in the US market at the time. So left LADbible and started Pubity. And it's interesting actually, because the reason we started, and obviously up to that point I'd grown maybe 3 or 4 different brands or pages, right? So I sort of knew how the algorithms worked. And we wanted to focus mainly around like positivity. So I'd go into subreddits, and this is where I found the idea for Pubity, was I would go into all these different subreddits, see what was really highly engaged, and then I'd understand, people are like truly interested in this topic, but there isn't anything for it on Instagram or like Twitter. So you could see there were these huge engagement spikes on like wholesome content. There's a really good subreddit I used called like Made Me Smile. Find all that content and then just be like, okay, the people are interested. I'll just share it on Instagram, use our growth hacking technique, and then scale the audience from there. So it was really trying to identify how you could go really global with the idea of positivity. That was like how we came up with the idea for Pubity.
The essence of the thinking that just kind of goes to that, speaks to your DNA and to why everyone raves about your energy. That's like clicks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just like, I think it's just trying to find and uncover things. There still is so many different opportunities, but you have to really go deep down into like internet culture to find them, and then re-engineer it to the greater audience. Like for example, a big thing for us that we always talk about is with a headline that we create, we make sure that no matter if English is your second, third language, you can still understand it. We don't try to overcomplicate with vocabulary that's quite complex. It's just really shareable, and I think that's what allows people in America through to like the world to understand your content.
Yeah, I like that. That's a better way of describing. You could say try and speak grade 4 or grade 3 English language, but actually something it's a second or third language for someone, making sure that they can understand that. Yeah. That's a good prompt.
Yeah, and something that's really interesting about that, and I'm going a little bit off key there, is that I'm sure Kit and the guys don't take the time to almost like hypothesize and like almost like just talk about things. They just like get it done, and then afterwards, when you're seeing the results, you're seeing how things are performing, you're iterating and iterating and iterating. You obviously don't land at that point from the start, right? It's almost like we try this worked, this didn't work, let's do this, and then you almost like understand what is it that people want. I think it's really interesting when you think about like the marketing world at the moment. Is that I like to almost like use the analogy of a DJ that only plays their favorite music has an empty club, or a chef that only serves their favorite dish or has an empty restaurant, right? A lot of people here are always trying to push content down people's throats or an agenda. But going back to Kit's point, you have to find the narrative, you have to find the stories, you have to find the connection points that's already existing, and then try to make sure that you're holding it up as a billboard, right? So people feel like they're knowing and understanding. You saw that with Dude with Sign, right?
But it's not just like you're coming up with an idea and throwing it out there. You went into the subreddits, and you've got that, you're like integrated into the culture, and that's why it's already so fluently relevant to them.
Exactly that, yeah. I think one of the things that really helped me, I only really realized it when I read a book recently. It's called like Mastery by Robert Greene, which is like, because I just did it for so many years. We were posting like 30 times a day for like 8 years in a row. When I look back, I was like pretty sad. I literally literally 30 times a day, a new post. And I think because you just do it so much and you iterate so much, you begin to just understand, and then whenever you see content, it sort of like funnels into what you already know. And I could see the headline off a piece of content just because I've done it so many times. I think that's like quite interesting. Just probably similar to yourself with like LinkedIn, right? Like right now you could be like, I know how to immediately, this is how I create a LinkedIn post out of just being on, doing it in this podcast. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it was funny. And I'll jump into my origin story in a second.
Yes.
But I was on a panel on LinkedIn, and like first and foremost, there was these like tech guys, or these data guys that just came up with this like whole theory of how you grow on LinkedIn and trust, etc., etc. And I think me and LinkedIn have a Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mr. McMahon kind of relationship.
All right.
Right? Because they always have an approach that they want to take, and I always just like go up and say, no, just don't do that. And I say it like on stages and stuff, which is really funny. But I was like, forget all that. Here's how you grow.
Someone like crying in the background, like, oh my God.
Yeah, but it's almost like, as long as the crowd's yelling, then they feel like it's good for business, right? But effectively, I'll just go on a stage and say, here's 4 ways to, here's one way to just like 4x your engagement, like right now. And everyone will look at it and be like, I never thought about that. But it's nothing complicated. It's just saying, what does your audience actually like, right? Like for themselves. Because a lot of people think that it's about them. No, really it's about the audience. They're the main character in their own life. And especially on a platform like LinkedIn, they're very selfish about their time and what's of value to them. So if you know what that is already, and you almost like blow that up, you take that in mind whenever you're posting something, you're more likely to end up on their feeds, and the algorithm will just like favor you. That's what happens.
Can we go into your origin story?
All right.
I fully agree with all of that.
I'll keep it very brief. So I'm a failed doctor, right? Right. Like every children of immigrants, even worse, my dad was a doctor. He just recently retired, right? So you could imagine the shame for family members and like people in our community when they realized that my doctor dad's son was gonna start tweeting for a living, right? So I fell in love with marketing because I heard Steve Jobs say 1,000 songs in your pocket in a keynote, and how he also announced the iPhone, and the way he was able to take something very, very complicated and distill it in a way that my simple brain could understand. I was like, what is that? That's an art, right? Not a lot of people can do that. And I said that's marketing, right? And I was like, and storytelling. And I said, I want to do that for a career. And then I heard about this 21-year-old called Mark Zuckerberg that turned down $1 billion from Yahoo because I was working on this thing called Facebook that I was using to connect with my friends back home. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, right? Like, that's really rebellious. These are 2 people that were not wearing suits, looked like dweebs, right? And made it look really, really like almost like closed off for me to enter their world. So I said I was going to do this thing called social media marketing, and eventually I was able to get employed doing it after doing a lot of free work for agencies, etc., etc. A guy called Ben Francis liked the work that I was doing on LinkedIn because no one wanted to like hear about it, so I started posting on LinkedIn. So funny enough, LinkedIn got me every single job opportunity or career opportunity anything that ever put money in my pocket came because I did something on LinkedIn, right? So I know the platform like pretty well. So I started posting about the fact that we're going from the B2B and B2C era to the human-to-human era, right? And because now it's no longer, I want to reach out to Coca-Cola, it's I want to reach out to Karen at Coca-Cola, right? And if you can apply that mindset in everything that you do, the human-to-human connection, then that's where the world's going. And the Gymshark guys liked it. And then they brought me in. I spent 7 years there. The goal was to scale the brand so that it's mentioned in the same breath as Nike, Adidas, Puma, and those guys, but on one condition: we don't lose the connection with our community, right? I nearly lost my job the first 3 months, and I'll tell you about that later. But effectively, Ben wanted to make sure that connection was always there, and that was my job. We did that for 7 years, and the rest is history. After that, I thought that we could. I'm a big Wu-Tang Clan fan, and I like the idea of having 9 members that are all individual, united by the same sound. And I thought, why could that not be businesses? And I said, I've got Method Man with Jim Shark. Let me go get 8 more. And I set up an agency to be able to facilitate that. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Love that, love that. Yeah. When we go into the flywheels, I'd love you to give a bit more space to Catalyst and some other elements, because I went to one of your events not long ago and you had 3 of your businesses showing up in different lights, and I was like, what?
It's almost like juggling. So I've always been a fan about, if anybody's ever watched The Avengers, right? It's the same concept, right? It's like different planets, different worlds, different superheroes, but then they all come together as the Avengers. And I like the idea of people creating their own worlds, right? Like if you think about the biggest brands, they always create ecosystems, right? And they always don't really make a lot of sense at the start, because you're like, well, you're doing so many different stuff. And me and Max always have the conversation about the fact that you should lock in and focus on one thing. So I just picked the biggest thing that I could focus on and just like put subcategories inside it, right? And that's what we'll talk about a little bit later.
Mike.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say I'm definitely representing an older voice, an experienced voice in this conversation. So I'll try not to do like when my day kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess I started in media 20 years ago, and I think it's really simplistic to say, but the biggest change from like a youth, and I joined brands that I loved, right? So for me, again, there was a football brand called 442, which is like the original football magazine, and there was music magazines, and I wanted to get into that space and just work for those brands that I loved. Ultimately now it'd be brands you follow, but back then it was brands you read or watched, and that's what I was able to do. And then kind of followed the career path through those passions. And again, when I joined Vice, it was because I was spending my lunch times watching their content. I was sat there watching their YouTube documentaries, thinking I'd want to be working on this, not what I'm doing now. And same with LADbible, like again, just a brand that you loved and followed. So I've always kind of followed, I guess, content creation companies where I've got a passion for the subject, and that's taken me there. I think the big change with media from a youth perspective, it is down to the consumption, right? The way people consume media has completely changed. And taking a bit of a macro view on that, there are channels that have existed for 50, 60, 100 years, right? And in the last 10 to 15, they've completely, there's a whole range of new channels which are moving faster and more relentlessly than any other time of kind of media consumption. And if you think about, again, what's driven those platforms, it's always been young people. It's always been youth. So all of, again, you use the example of Facebook, which obviously kicked off Lad and kicked off Pubity initially, and then Instagram and Snap and TikTok and YouTube. And they've all been driven by the different consumption of youth audiences. And LADbible obviously grew off the back of the fact that the smartphone put social media in our pockets. And suddenly we were all consuming all the time. And that was the biggest step change in media consumption ever. Because again, coming from a background where I was working on magazines and TV and cinema, everyone was consuming, you were kind of consuming media on the same channel as your parents, just in different formats, or maybe you'd go to watch a different film or you'd watch a different TV channel, but you were on the same platform ultimately. Whereas these new platforms, social media came along, and suddenly there was a completely separate environment, which was great for young people because no one wanted to be on the same platform environment as their parents. So actually that growth that kind of came through because of social platforms is what's driven, I think, the way, and again, all the habits of social have been formed by young people as well. So all the behaviours, so the fact that, again, content is consumed quicker, and again, these are all things that naturally young people are quicker to adapt to. We see it a lot now. Obviously, we have Lad Nation, our kind of panel of 50,000 of our audience. Even within that kind of, we talk about Gen Z as a cohort, and even in the younger end of that, particularly with COVID in the middle, those guys, there are people who've never been into a 5-day kind of working week in the office. There's a real shift, and they're much more comfortable with kind of, I guess, the multitasking nature of social media, being able to filter things quicker. When you talk about AI with them, they're much more savvy, and that's a kind of even, 24 and under versus 24 and above, forgetting where I am at the other end of that scale. But so I think that it's that shift in consumption which is driving everything. And then the bit that has stayed the same and is really exciting is how do you find big cultural moments that cut across all of those platforms? That hasn't changed. The big things that people were talking about, that's the kind of magic part now, that actually if you can find something that will resonate across all of those platforms. We talked a lot, like Brat Summer was last year's moment, right? That young people were talking about across every platform, across every different format, those cultural cut through moments that kind of break out of the, I suppose, the more day-to-day, like 30 posts kind of environment that we operate in, that really stand out and impact culture. But they're all driven now from social first, and I think that's the other part that's probably in the last year or two was changed, where maybe things happened in culture and social reflected them. Things happen on social, and the rest of culture and mainstream kind of catches up. And again, I've got a 13-year-old son, and I learn loads from him. Like we did even with LADbible, again, there's so much going on with content, you miss things, and there was an agree to disagree we'd done with a couple of football players, Morgan Gibbs White, and he said, I've seen that clip, Dad. That's in all the edits. I was like, slow down. Talk to me. Where's the edit? And basically there's a clip of Morgan Gibbs White reacting to a question about whether he would celebrate against his old team, and he does a nice little face, and that has become the opening edit of a whole range of TikToks all about Morgan Gibbs White, how great he is, and that kind of little edge he's got. And my son had seen that across TikTok as a kind of cultural impact there, which came from a LADbible interview and then filtered its way through. So like, yeah, I don't know if that answers how it's changed, but for me, it's like, there's whole ecosystems now driven by young people, which never existed before.
I want to go into the business models behind these flywheel mechanics. You each talk about building flywheels, and actually when we last spoke, I was using the word viral, and you said, no, that's like a moment, you can try and make something viral, but actually really there's systems behind this that create these flywheel effects that go even further than that. All while your businesses, your machines, look very different under the hood. So I'd love to give space to the audience to understand how all of your individual businesses work. I'm just going to give a bit of a lens to things that I'd love you to lean into. I'm just going to look at my iPad. I've got a couple of notes. Kit, from your side, what powers Pubity's model from niche content to channels to client rosters, including Meta, MrBeast, and Gymshark? Elf, you take businesses from creative inefficiency to flywheel infrastructures, and you manage multiple ventures alongside that. I wonder how that looks in practice. And Mike, I wonder if you could explain the business model behind LADbible, from creating and curating to building IP and monetizing social entertainment. Could you just please break it down to me? And then once you've done that, it would be actually quite cool if you could then show how that comes together in a collaboration that you have with Formula E. Okay.
So I go first? Or?
Yeah.
All right, cool, I'll go first. So I think a lot of the times, I probably do it intentionally, because you're kind of like the Joker and Batman, right? It's the person that looks a bit like a fool, but then you realize that he's actually a genius, right? Or it looks as a lot cleverer than people think, right? But I think that I like the idea of creating. We always used to call our platform free smoke, right? It's that you like to create smoke so that competitors don't see what you're doing. And actually at Gymshark, what we used to do is we would actually do certain things, like sign certain athletes or do certain things, because we knew our competitors will be watching, and they will actually make the decision to replicate that move when really the value is happening over here, right? And effectively with Butterfly Effect, we said, and that's the name of the company, right? It's Butterfly Effect. We know that little steps lead to chaos, taking things one step at a time. And we were like, okay, we originally had the plan the long-term plan is to be able to have our own ventures, right? Or our own brands that we market, simply because I feel like most marketeers are scared, right? There's two games you can play in a marketing perspective, just in a business perspective. It's the game to win or the game to not lose, right? So, and I realized that most brands and most businesses, probably like 90%, if not 95%, play in the don't lose capacity, right? So we said we're going to set up an agency that only works with companies in the we want to win capacity. Ironically, there's two spectrums. There's like brands at the very top, and there's a reason why they're the number ones and number twos. They actually want to win. And then you have brands that are either startups that have been around for a little while, and they also want to win, right? So like the Gymsharks, when I joined it 3 years ago. And then we realized, okay, I much prefer working with those kind of companies, but I'm like, well, we'll never make any money. I'll be a starving artist, and then I will never be able to afford to have my team. So we said, okay, we'll work with the big brands. We'll do some really cool stuff with them. And then in the future, we'll use the budget to be able to like just fund our own businesses, right? And then, so I guess what I'm getting at is the fact that this, although we had the long-term end of trying to have our own brands and the Wu-Tang thing, the steps to get there were all iterations, right? It's like, oh, we want to do this. Well, everyone's scared, so what do we do? And then it's like, and then you're just iterating and iterating, and you're realizing that actually, to get to that end point, and for you to start investing in your own brands and putting your own money into things, you have to have evidence that this actually works, right? So as soon as our business model changed from selling time and selling case studies because we want to exit to one of the holding companies or something like that, to we actually want to make sure that our marketing company is great so that we can actually scale our own brands in the future, the level of integrity that you get with clients then is different, right? Because I'm like, I don't really give a shit about the money you're giving us. I don't really give a shit about the case study for our own stuff. And actually, if we do a great job for you, then it gives us confidence that we'll do a great job for our group going forward, right? And I think that the fact that we're able to communicate to clients, and that's just like that matter of fact / simple way that it's all about like helping you win, helping you become the star, helping you become famous in your organization and your industry, that allowed us to start to like almost like set or create products that people just love because they're just like, they're not like held by bureaucracy, right? And we said that, okay, the agency, well, we call ourselves the community council, right? So people actually just pay us to stick around, right? So they're like, okay, Alf, we're in a Slack chat with you guys. We have some ideas of a problem. What do you guys want to do? And they just pay us a retainer to just be there, right? And if anything, whenever they want us to execute, we're able to. We kept a very lean team. We have almost like a network of like 50 to 200 like freelancers and boutique agencies we bring in, because the whole concept was, well, if you want to keep the fees competitive and so that you're not like bullshitting people, just keep the team lean, own the brain and the heart and rent the body, right? Because you don't need the body all the time. Because you don't also want to fall into that almost like space where you're having to chase work to pay for what you've got, right? And we were just studying like, why do people get set in these traps of hurting the relationships that they have with their clients, right? Because the first thing that everybody used to tell me when I said I was starting an agency was like, why the fuck are you doing that, right? They're like, we don't like agencies, we don't like this. And I was like, well, why? And then when you get there, it's almost like, as soon as the financials starts to almost like overthrow the decision-making from a creative perspective, from a relationship perspective, et cetera, that's when things get broken, right? So we first focused on fixing that. And then we realized that, you know what, we want to create big brands, but then we have to go into this political campaign of getting like people on board that are either just trying to get a promotion or trying to do whatever. So like, you know what, it's only ever gonna work if we set up our own brands, right? And now we actually work with Ricky Gervais. We co-own a business with him called Dutch Barn, right? Which is super cool. And we're able to demonstrate a dramatic demonstration of what great marketing is. So our thing is, and everything from the events is just like us saying, well, you guys should do this. You're taking us a long time to get to the point where we can do it. So we're just gonna do it ourselves. It'll work for us, so we're a brand in ourselves. And then if you want it, you just pay us to do it for you, right?
What's quite interesting, something that you gave light to there, but didn't necessarily articulate, is the community approach is actually an approach to how you have all these different freelancers, agencies that you work with.
Yeah.
And like the events that you host is when you bring them all together, and they also then create opportunities of how they can work together in different things.
Yeah.
Like the last event that I came to, I met two of your friends that there's also plenty of opportunity to do some work with them as well. It's amazing how you can bring these all together, but there's that clear essence. You're very ambitious. I remember when we first met, you communicated you want to own Arsenal Stadium. Is that still?
Yeah, well, I want to buy Arsenal, or at least be a shareholder.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason why, because this just goes back to the human reason. There is a reason for it.
Yeah.
One, I always believe that everybody should have a delusional goal, right? Because it keeps our mind occupied enough to just like keep going. You know how many people I know that have like sold their business for a lot of money, or they've been very, very successful and are miserable because they don't have like any more purpose. So I always say that you should give yourself like a 25, 30 year goal. That's so delusional, but you wake up every day like excited that you're getting one step closer, because otherwise, why are we getting punched in the face every day for?
And
right?
the journey just there it is like you have that huge ambition, like it's just in your essence, but you really care about being the best, not necessarily about just that next win, and that next win it is like you've set yourself up in a place where you can focus on delivering great value.
Yeah.
I'd love to move to Flywheel Mechanics with yourself, Kit. If you could explain how Pubity works as an engine.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we mainly work through our audience, right? So, as a business, my goal has always just been to maintain and grow the audience, because I think off the back of the audience, you can increase the quality of the audience, then you can develop revenue streams off of the back of that. And obviously that's why with Pubity we link it back to positivity. So everything that we do is linked to positivity in some way. So we generate revenue in a few different ways, but for example with like brands, we can then partner up with a brand. Obviously our audience knows that we create positive content. We could then do a custom brand deal or any sort of brand deal with a client, integrate them into like that positive network. And then obviously because of the mass reach that we have and the audience that we've scaled up, we can integrate them in, and they know that they're getting the eyeballs, they're getting the impact that they want. Obviously that's why we work together, right? Proving the impact. But yeah, we're able to utilize that audience. So I think the flywheel for myself has just always been to maintain the growth of the audience and get it as big as possible, just because I think if you can own it, then you can fundamentally do anything. Obviously that comes with so many nuances, right? Because like you've probably seen, where could TikTok go away? Then okay, if TikTok goes away, hypothetically, then you lose a portion of your audience. So what do you do then? But I think we're in a world where there'll always be a social media platform. If every platform went tomorrow, there will be eyeballs that want to go somewhere because there are creators there. There will always be creators. Community, exactly. So I think just that's always been my mission, and obviously, like I say, building revenue streams off of that as well.
Love that. Mike, if you could explain the LADbible engine, please.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's not dissimilar, obviously, to what Kit's done with Pubity, and I think that I love the positivity mission that Pubity have, and I think with LADbible, we talk a lot about, again, being additive, not addictive. So what are we bringing to people's day? Like we talk about elevate the everyday, whether that's kind of real life hero stories, whether that's finding a different angle on something that's out there in the kind of social sphere. So completely agree that the business is driven by audience and connecting with audiences. Obviously, you get LADbible's 12 years old now, and it's been able to grow and establish. And I think often when you're working with influencers or creators, there's sometimes from a brand point of view, because again, a lot of our business is done directly with brands, there has to be an element of compromise in terms of that creator will be huge on one platform, or they might have a particular way of working. And I think the good brands understand that and lean into those creators. I guess with LADbible, we've been able to build the kind of ecosystem broad enough that you can pick and choose more, less and less kind of compromise from the brand point of view in terms of, okay, who do you want to reach? How do you want to reach them? Where do you want to reach them? We can partner with creators, as we've done with Elf and his team. We can bring talent on board. We can find any kind of combination of ways to connect with the audience and achieve the brand's end goal. So I think for us, that kind of route to, again, for example, we take longer form content we create, and actually, as well as living on YouTube, that lives. We've done partnerships with companies like C Screen, so that's out of home now. Or if you're sat at I spend a lot of time sat at a power league waiting for my kids, and there's LADbible content on the screen. So again, it's that breadth of kind of content now. And as we grow as a business, more people, more eyeballs, and then being able to give brands the opportunity to connect on different platforms, different ways, find again those kind of crossover moments that take you out of one particular social platform or one ecosystem and start to connect dots across multiple touch points. So that's, I think, where LADbible probably has an increasingly kind of powerful offering for brands that kind of lives and breathes a little bit beyond where we initiated, which was, working on, monetizing around particular social platforms.
I find this like hugely valuable because it didn't make sense to me from the very beginning, from the offset. I had to do a bit of research, which is to hear that it helps connect different dots of things that help make sense to me. I want to talk about youth media today, and you mentioned this, like reach, and then we talked about it's not just attention, but community is a big part of that too. And we spoke about going viral as one thing, but building trust is another. You say trust is a huge component of brand. And at ThisThat, we actually believe that brand and community are the exact same thing. we think that if you can measure your community, you can actually measure your brand, and then a dollar metric, and that is a real driving force of understanding how valuable is this company. But how do you know when your content is part of youth culture? How do you know that you're not just writing a moment, that you're actually moving a movement? And what are common misconceptions in that too?
I think, so I'd start off from a LADbible perspective. I think, first of all, it's the brand of the community, as you put it, that kind of is, that's, to me, that's the thumb stop. If you're scrolling through and you see LADbible's post, or you see a Pubity post, if you've got a connection with that brand, you're part of that community, you will stop and engage, which is probably the hardest part to establish. I think then when you see about impacting culture, it's when maybe you can take that audience on a journey to something slightly different, and something that they wouldn't necessarily always expect to see with you, but they come with you. So, and that can be really powerful. To give like the most kind of one of the most exciting things I've done since I've been at LADbible, we did a partnership with Women's Aid, where it was a campaign called Spot the Flags. It was all about coercive control in relationships, and it's the kind of territory that where LADbible absolutely should be talking, because we've got an audience who would need to hear these kind of messages, but isn't the day-to-day reason people come to us. But we actually again created a short film, kind of highlighted those kind of topics, and the audience engagement was incredible in terms of real depth of conversation. You had people going on to various social platforms and sharing their stories. That community was really there, talking to each other, difficult, important topics, and again with the kind of trust, I guess, that exists around the brand and around the community, we were able to put something out there and let our audience then drive that conversation. And I think for us, that's when you kind of feel, okay, there's a community here, it's a part of culture, we can bring up important, sometimes difficult, challenging conversations, and our audience will engage with them and run with them. And that was a real kind of moment for me in the relatively short time I've been there, where I thought, okay, this is we can do really powerful stuff here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think in youth culture, it goes back to what you're saying, trust is such a big thing. But I also think trust comes in many different ways as well, right? Especially for like the younger generations. Like trust for them might be seeing their friends engaging with a certain creator, and then be like, oh, actually, if my friend's watching them, then that to a degree is trust, because they're seeing their friends engage. I also think, like you say, trust takes a long time to build. So like it compounds, doesn't it? If the more you have an audience and can maintain an audience, that's why for us, it's always been my goal, because you have that trust, and as long as you don't lose the trust, then you have the credibility. And then the credibility is obviously so valuable. But then when it comes to like youth audience, like I say, it could be in so many different ways. It could be with audiences like ours. Like we're trusted because we've been around for decades, right? So people see us creating a piece of content, they're like, oh yeah, they very reliable source. We can believe them. Then it might be with creators, like I said, their friend engaging with it, or more people talking about it. I mean, even something as simple as like comments. Like I was talking to someone about this the other day, which is like younger people might find the initial piece of content entertaining and funny. They'll check the comments, and then the comments would be negative, and they've just changed the whole perception of that video because the top 3 comments are negative. So some of the stuff as nuanced as comment sentiment is so important to track, and that actually builds like youth culture. It can go so nuanced like that. Yeah, it's just very interesting.
Scrolling through TikTok, most of the time you're looking at the comments over the video itself.
Exactly right. It's the stuff you share with your friends. Like sometimes now, obviously, the platforms have integrated in the possibility to share comments with your friends. We might not even share the videos. We'll share a funny comment and then just like laugh or find the emotion from that comment itself. So it can be so deep as that, where I think youth culture is actually built.
Again, it's not new, is it? But so much of content on brands like ours is driven by comments. If people are responding to something, if people are making suggestions for you, you'd be a fool to ignore them. Like, listen to what your audience are telling you. You can react to that. You can create around that, and it then becomes community again, right? The audience are driving the content.
Exactly. I mean, it's why tracking data is so important, right? That's obviously why when we will do a campaign, we'll track the data to prove that the audience actually cared, because there are eyeballs, and some brands just want eyeballs, right? But I think a lot of brands that we work with actually want to understand if it was actually impactful, especially with like youth culture, right? So you can do it to a top line from viewing stats or impressions, but really you need to track and go as detailed as that to really understand if it made an impact.
this idea of moving from a moment to a movement sounds like as if you're creating conversation, or you're part of the conversation in the community you're having.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times, I know I've been shitting on brands a lot today, right? And I only do it because I'm Congolese, we love brands, right? Like my culture is just like, I've had ads in my face since I was like a child, right? We love brands, we love what they mean to societies, we love how it makes people feel. But I think a lot of brands have lost that feeling, right? The game's changed. That before, how you generated trust was that you were more visible than everybody else because other people, you had to be you had to be reputable because you had money to be able to be in front of people. You had to be trusted because you're on TV, and that was the only way that people were able to make their decisions, right? But now we've just shifted from this era where you're like pushing. It's almost like if I was to walk in here and tell everybody that I'm a nice guy, you're not going to believe me. But if Kit says I'm a nice guy, you're more likely to believe me, right? There's a stat that says that people are more likely to buy, 77% more likely to buy through a recommendation from somebody that they trust as opposed to from the person themselves. But even worse, after the pandemic, we realized, a lot of people missed it, but a lot of brands abused the trust that they have with their audiences by pretty much putting out the same ads during the pandemic about the fact that they actually care about their audiences, and it also looked very disingenuous. People were making statements that they weren't backing up. They're doing a lot of things that they were not that they didn't believe in. They're making decisions that actually got people to think. People had time to do their research as to where is this company actually coming from. They're saying they care about this, but then they're moving this way, right? So really, there are universal pillars of trust that you can do across all platforms, such as just don't do things that are contradictory to what you don't say things that are contradictory to what you do. There's things like listening to your audience and having a two-way conversation and making sure they feel represented. But then in each platform, there's different things as well that's really, really important. Like, for example, on LinkedIn, what people trust is whether you have a track record or a journey that I want to be on, right? So the content itself doesn't really matter. Like, if you want to become a head of marketing or a head of media, you're more likely going to follow Kit because you'll look at his track record of what he's done, and then you'll believe his content, right? People don't think about that, right? So you could literally copy what he does, and you're not going to get the same impact because the trust pillar on LinkedIn is your track record, right? Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Every platform has its own, and in Instagram, it's now the comment section, right? The first thing people do is, I'm going to head straight to the comments and see what happens. And if the comment gives you the validation, or the likes and your friends gives you the validation, then you trust the piece of content. So those are all like social proofing, right? So you have to be able to understand. So whenever you're going into a platform, understand the law of the land, right? How are people generating trust? Who are the people that have a hold of trust? What are the different characteristics that's demonstrating that they have that, and then you just focus on it in that way. I think a lot of people just overcomplicate it.
It's beautiful. I would love to give space to the Formula E collab, and maybe through that you guys could touch on community, you could touch on trust, you could touch on flywheel effects, youth media. It's something that you guys have a chance to work on all together.
Funny, that's ironic, and I'm probably the person that's guilty of making that happen. But so I basically started telling brands that you need to go where your audience is at, right? So instead of spending money in where you used to do it because you just don't want to fail, there's a new world that you guys have not even seen that I'm blown by every single day. Like what Pubity and LADbible have been doing has been around since I've been at university onwards, right? And I'm still walking into these rooms and people just don't understand it. So our big shift has been, it's actually become a point of difference of ours, that we're actually going into youth media, social publishing media, and getting people to we're actually creating campaigns that are built for what it will look like on a Pubity or LADbible feed. We're building the headline of the campaign first, and then we're delivering things afterwards, right? And then the good thing is that now, instead of us just investing in just high ticket old school media, we just said, you know what, we're just going to go to the places that work. And with Formula E, we had an opportunity to do that with two things. We had a moment, which was the Mr. Beast racing the car moment. But then we also had Driver, which is actually Formula E is now on Amazon Prime. They have their own a show called Driver, which is super cool. It goes into like what it actually takes to become a professional race driver. And we're like, well, how are we going to get everybody to give a shit about this? We're going to go to Pubity and LADbible, right? And the guys will tell us what elements of this that their audience will like. And then that's what we're going to focus on, right? And it's been phenomenal. But
What was that like for you guys? Did Elf just come to you and was like, I need you to jump on this thing? Or walk us through.
Yeah, there was. I think you had the contact, right? So Elf came and was like, look, I've got this great campaign. Do you want to work together? And we were like, yeah, sure. Obviously, the campaign itself, and we work with clients in a few different ways. So amplification is one, where a campaign might already be developed, or the marketing in that campaign is actually created. So it's just utilizing our audience for scale and reach, which is great. Some brands really want that. And I think this one works really well, like you say, because we often share content around Mr. Beast. Mm-hmm. So it was so natural for him to be seen on our audience. And I think that's something that we always think about when we work with brands, which is, can you make it as authentic to the content that you already post as possible? Mm-hmm. Because if so, you know that the audience are going to love it, the impact's going to be much stronger, and also the audience are more likely to care and actually think about the product that's being delivered to them. Because I think so many brands get it wrong, which is they try to force certain creators because it fits the brief that they're trying to create, when in reality, I think to a degree that can be right, depending on what your goal is, but majority of the time, it's actually making sure that you work with the destinations, and make sure that you understand what's authentic and organic to them, and then reconfiguring that into the brief. Just because I think if you go too far-fetched one way and you're creating briefs around, I don't know, you really want X, Y, Z, then in reality it's not going to correlate there. Then the audience, the people that are actually you're trying to deliver that campaign to, aren't going to care, and the impact's just low. So it's just making sure that, that's why this one worked so well, just because the campaign itself, working with Formula E, people are actually interested in it. It's having, I can't remember the increase, but the increase in like viewership significant for Formula E. Like people are actually becoming more interested in it as a sport. So it's making sure that you can capitalize on the brands where people are interested, and also like working with like creators and creating content that people actually care about.
Speaks to the community that you have built. You just touched on, you want to go into the environment where your community is.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to have built these things up. And not only have you built that community, but you also really understand that community very well. So you can make sure that if you are building ads into that ecosystem, that it speaks to their nature and that relevance, just like it aligning with their interests and the brand identity itself, that will immediately have trust, that will immediately be part of the conversation. That won't just be a moment or just an ad. People won't be apathetic to it. It'll actually be a conversation.
Exactly. I mean, it's exactly as you were saying, which is like, it comes back to credibility and trust. Like in theory, Elf could have easily gone to someone probably cheaper than us, save a bit of money there. But in reality, there's a reason, obviously, he wants to come to us, is because like it comes back to that credibility, and the brand being seen across our audience is much more impactful for them as a brand than being seen on maybe like a small meme page where maybe they might reach a big audience, but in reality, the credibility and trust isn't there because they might be working with smaller, more unprofessional brands. I
think for us, it's always thinking, what does our brand add to that campaign as well? Because again, all the credit to Elf, because he bought Mr. Beast, he bought the brand. It's like, this is easy, but actually, what is, in our case, again, a couple of things for us. One is Sport Bible rather than LADbible in this occasion, because actually, and with numbers, you look at follow count, you go LADbible, but actually Sport Bible audience much more into motorsport, much more engaged as you'd expect. And to Kit's point, we're seeing like, motorsport is having a real moment. Like actually, again, they've done a really good job in the last few years, probably, I guess, driven by Formula One, but now Formula E very much so as well, connecting with young audiences, finding different ways to do it. So we're seeing like motorsport is probably on Sport Bible like our second most popular sport now, right up there with football number one, but motorsport and boxing really close at number two. So there's a real audience there for it. So first of all, allowing us to use the brand that we know is going to work best for the content, and then again, Sport Bible with Formula E and Mr. Beast, that could have gone in a very different direction. But as a business that wants to grow its credibility as a sport, putting it in that environment where daily we're talking about intense, serious sporting competition, you've got a natural kind of alignment of credibility from Sport Bible, which just helps the campaign deliver what it's trying to achieve, which obviously, again, the stardust and the creativity is already there. So, yeah, that freedom for us to go and know what's going to add to the campaign is really important. And again, if any advice to brands out there, come and let us tell you how we can help you best.
Yeah. And just to add to that, sorry, you went back at community being the heart of everything that we do. Like, we actually care more about our relationship with our partners, our team members, the brands that we work with, more than we do about like the financials, honestly, right? Because at the end of the day, like it's all about like compounding trust and credibility on all fronts. The flywheel is trust, right? How do you make sure that when we go to one of our partners like Kit and the guys at LADbible, that they're like, yes, butterfly effects here. They know that we're not going to give them a shit brief, because we have the uncomfortable conversation with brands up front to say, by the way, if you want to work with us, you have to make sure that we're not just going to put like, here's a campaign for you, overpromise, underdeliver. No, like there's a yes, you probably might get more views in this way. That's great because but it has to reinforce a spark moment, right? You need to start from a spark moment of trust from the repeatable platforms and then reinforce that with the other platforms, right? It's super important that works, right? Do you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, this whole conversation has been fascinating. It speaks to the title, guys. You have had the pleasure of listening to the creators behind the youth media Flywheels. Fascinating to hear the communities, the essence, finding the community, speaking to the communities, moving from moments to movements is very much facilitating a conversation and being part of that conversation. You guys ready for some rapid fire this or that questions?
Let's do it.
Yeah? Feel free to give a one-word answer, a sentence answer. Feel free to say it's neither. Feel free to say it's both. Conversion or community?
Both.
I think I would always say community, because I think with a stronger community comes conversion. So it's harder to convert if you don't have the community.
100%.
That's the answer, right? Community drives conversion.
Yeah, it's 100%. That's why it's both.
Campaign or always on programs?
Always on.
Always on, because I think you make more of an impact over a period of time.
Compounds.
Yeah, the more brands can be reactive and flexible in their approach to talking to their audience, the better campaigns can limit you on that.
And by the way, one of the reasons why I said conversion is, and Kit's 100% right, you have to be able to lead with community first to drive conversion, but if you have conversion and sales, you can do more community work.
Mic drop.
Reach or relevance?
Relevance.
I would say reach, because that's always been my goal. And I think if you always maintain reach, then relevance comes with it. But it depends what
There's
you
that
are.
tipping point, I suppose, right? You're not going to be able
Exactly.
to achieve 180 billion views if you're not relevant.
Exactly, yeah, and it can be flipped around, right? Because it could be, depends what your goal is. Like for me, that's my personal goal. But if you're nuanced, then relevance, you don't directly need reach, because you're going to be reaching people that are far beyond what you want within your brand. So, yeah, but I'd say that to me.
Yeah, I think LADbible's always gone after both pretty aggressively, and I think, look, again, relevance drives reach, right? If you keep getting that right, people will stay with you, they'll follow you. So yeah, I know that's a both.
Yeah, I use relevance as an anchor. It's like reach as many people as long as you don't sacrifice this thing, right? And the relevance might not necessarily be what's hot in the news, it's like what's right for your audience, right? It has to be relevant to them, right? So it's like reach as many people that fall in your ICP, your audience, but ensure that it's relevant to them.
You've got like something you're running towards, but an anchor is almost like building a great business. You want to drive as much revenue as possible, but you don't want the profit to drop down below a certain piece as well. Right?
I always say the best brands always have an anchor. Like if you just like, for example, the Gymshark anchor was uniting the conditioning community. So you can grow, you can do whatever, as long as what you're doing is bringing different people from different pillars of fitness together. If it's not doing that, it's not Gymshark, right? Do you know what I mean?
Sales or advocacy?
Advocacy.
Same, advocacy.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with
AI optimized or human curated?
Touchy subject.
I actually find your opinion would be fascinating because you were doing 30 pieces of content every single day already. So with AI optimizations, are you now going to be doing 3,000 a day?
Yeah.
Or like...
I think this is obviously something we think about all the time. I think it's both, because you obviously want to optimize as much as possible, but then it hits a limit where, if you think about it in the long run, the playing field will just be the fact that everyone can do the same thing. So the thing, it will get to a point where at the moment there might be fast movers to it, and then they might have a bit of an advantage, but it will get to a point where everyone can AI optimize. So like, for example, there's pages out there, again, I don't know if many people know this, but there are pages that are fully AI, like as in AI agent based. Could be like a quote page. So let's say philosophy quotes. And if you go on Instagram, the entire page looks real, looks like someone's just graphic designed it, but everything's AI automated. You get to a point where, okay, that person has a early mover advantage, but then at some point, maybe within a year, whatever period of time, there's going to be 1,000 of them. So it'll get to a point where the only way you can stand out is by really thinking creatively. And I think that's what will happen. So there's like early mover advantage, but it'll always be human touch.
Needs to push the level up.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be human touch. It'll be someone's creativity that makes them stand out. But they might optimize as much as possible through AI. But yeah, you'll always need a human touch.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we're in a world of infinite content. Right? AI can just, as you say, produce infinite content. So we talk a lot about trying to build IP. Things like snack wars, things like minutes with. We need things that stand out and cut above and people seek out, and that you can tell they're ultimately they're not only human created, but they're recognizable, they're brands in their own right, and they're trusted, because the kind of infinite content scroll will be endless.
I always say that's where innovation happens, right? Like when IQ is being democratized, the only thing that's going to set people apart is going to be EQ, right? And that therefore gives us, then the game changes, right? If just putting a quote or putting a title no longer differentiates you, what can you do that other people can't that allows you to make people feel something and therefore generate trust, right?
You've been saying this for over a year. You said this last year as well. And that just clicked on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
With AI, IQ is being democratized.
Right.
Like everyone can level up their game. We just, early on, we had Adrian Lehans, who is really right at the forefront of spearheading Gen AI innovation. And there's the crazy stories of like everyday creative people now can go on and create film studio quality cinematic animations and full documentaries and everything within like 2 days.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah.
But then the person that will go on to the Pubity comment section and realize that everybody says, not this time, you know who, or something like that, and you build off the back of that insight. Like if you go to Dude with Sign, right, and you just read his signs, you can create multiple like things off the back of that, right? It's like an insight that comes from listening to the conversation that's actually happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've actually got a really, really good example of what we're talking about, which is, it only came to me last week. I was listening to, it was really, really random. Sometimes I listen to jazz music.
Nice.
So I was listening to jazz music and I was like, oh my God, this like 1 hour long mix is amazing. Like, oh my God, this is so good. Who's singing this? Like, oh, that's amazing. And then I checked the comments and then obviously I saw it was AI. Yeah. And then it felt so real. Then it immediately hit me. I was like, oh, like this isn't even real. So like there was a human touch to it to the point where it was actually such a good song, like such a good like mix. I was like, I used to listen to this every day and it hit me, oh, this is AI. Immediately lost that credibility. Yeah. And I think that's like a good example of, like, that's why a human touch, you're going to much prefer to listen to a real one over an AI one, right?
Yeah, and that'll be so fascinating to see how young generations growing up with that react to it?
Yeah.
Will they have the same instinctive reaction we do of like, I miss the human element? Or actually, if from the age of 6, 7, 8, you've just been in a world where a lot of the content is, will you care? Will you make that distinction? It's gonna like.
It's really, it needs to be both coming together.
I just think that people are just going to go in real. I think that people are literally going to go more for in real life experiences.
Yeah.
Right. I think that actually the things like going to football games, or sports games, going to places like this, IRL to disrupt URL is going to be the difference, because you cannot replicate that. How do you make me feel, and who do you introduce me to, and which conversations and experiences am I getting will be the differentiator. Just being on a screen, once everybody can get to the same level, will no longer be a point of difference, is my POV.
I've got one more. Virality or flywheels?
Flywheel.
Flywheel as well.
Elf sold me. I can't say no to flywheels, can I? I'm completely bought in.
Flywheel. Can't go wrong with a flywheel.
Yeah.
Nice.
You create the right flywheel, virality comes with it.
On multiple occasions, right?
Yes, yeah,
Over and over again.
yeah.
Gents, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so very, very much. This has been a wonderful podcast.
Hey, it's amazing.
Cheers. I really appreciate it.
Yeah?
Thanks,
Nice
Max.
one.
Appreciate it, Max.
Next year it's going to be
Cheers.
moving.
Yeah.
Sailing
We'll be
out there.
charted up.
Yeah, yeah.
Fast forward to the next one, part 2.